guys, so today's video is going to be my March wrap up because I didn't actually do any reading vlogs for March. March was a pretty crazy month for most people, as I'm sure you already know, and I barely read. So for most of March, either my fiance or I were sick. My fiance was sick for nearly 4 weeks. I was sick for nearly 2 weeks. And then with work and everything and quarantine, I honestly didn't read much. So I'm just going to put a picture of the books that I read up on the screen somewhere here, and I will talk about them. So I only read 3 books in the month of March, which I'm not exactly disappointed, but I wished I had read more. So let me just flip to the page. Okay, so I've got my reading bullet journal here. So the first book that I actually finished in March was Murder on St. Patrick's Day by p.creeden. It is the third book in the series. It is a cozy mystery series, and I actually got that from Kindle Unlimited. It's a very short book. It's only 37 pages long, so it's a very quick read. I read it in one sitting, and basically it was about Emma. She's 20 years old. Her father is the local police chief, and she has a crush on Colby, who is the works with her father, but in the canine unit. So he has a German Shepherd police dog called Gabby, and Emma has a dog called Molly. Molly is a 6-month-old, I believe, Saint Bernard puppy. And basically, obviously, someone gets murdered, and Emma helps her father and Colby sort out the murders, basically, to figure out who the murderer was. So this was obviously set on St. Patrick's Day. I did read it on St. Patrick's Day, and it was about a band called Irish who play every St. Patrick's Day in this cafe in their town, and one of the band members gets murdered. And that's really all I can say as such, because it's such a short story, 37 pages. That if I say any more, I'll give it away. You do know pretty fast who murders the person, because they do fit in a lot in a short amount of pages. But even though you do figure out fairly quickly, sometimes right at the beginning, who the murderer is, the story itself is still super cute. It's a really just sweet, fun, easy, light read, and I do highly recommend them. I gave it a 4 stars, and to be honest with you, this is the third one I've read, and all the others I've given 4 stars as well. Not because I dislike them, but I think it's just because, I can't say that a 37-page book is a 5-star read, because, you do know fast who the murderer is. It's a really fast story. It's cute, but it's not mind-blowing. So that was the first book I read. The second book I finished in March was Lemon Meringue Pie Murder by Joanne Fluke. It is the 4th book in the Hannah Swenson series, and it's also another cozy mystery read. This book is 329 pages long, so a relatively short book. Cozy mysteries are generally around the 250 to 350 page mark. Occasionally you might get one that's a little bit more than 350, but very rarely. I love this series. I gave it a 5 stars, you guys. The Hannah Swenson series, sorry, a truck is going by. The Hannah Swenson series is honestly one of my favorites. I really do love the book, the book series, and I also really love the fact that this particular one has recipes included, like this series. So for those of you who don't know the Hannah Swenson series, Hannah is the main character. She owns a cookie store in a little town, and her cookie store is called the Cookie Jar. And Hannah is basically the one who seems to be always finding dead bodies. And her sister Andrea is currently pregnant in this book, and then her brother-in-law, which is Andrea's husband, Bill, is a police officer. Hannah also is in a little bit of a love triangle between Bill's boss, Mike, who is a police officer, and Norman, who is a dentist in the town, both of which they like her, and she likes both of them. And in this one, a murder happens. So Norman, one of the guys that likes Hannah, buys this really old rundown house on a beautiful block of land, and he decides that he is going to tear the house down and rebuild Hannah and Norman's dream house. And of course, someone gets murdered in the house, and Hannah actually isn't the one who finds the body this time. It's actually Hannah's mother, and it's the owner, or like the person that sold the house to Norman, is the person that gets murdered. This book was really great. I actually didn't know the whole book until right to the end who the murderer was in this one. It was really, really sweet. Like the relationships between the people, like I thought were just sweet and adorable, and there was a character in there, I think his name was Freddie. I can't remember now, but I'm not entirely sure what he has disability wise, but he's an adult. I believe he's in his 20s, but mentally he is not. And I like that character, but his cousin was looking after him because his mum, like Freddie, I think his name is, might have been from Jet. I can't remember. Freddie and Jet are the two names of the two cousins. I can't remember which one is which. But the one that has the disability, his mother died, and his mother was the one who used to take care of him. She doesn't die in the book, but she has died, like they say in the story. And his cousin has taken over caring for him and is becoming a bad influence on this young man. And the community kind of gather around because they're concerned about the influence, like the bad influence that his cousin has on him. And there were some things in there that I just thought were a little bit sad, that this young man, because he isn't mentally the same age, is a little bit sad how his cousin was treating him, and it made me a little bit upset because I do actually have a sister who is autistic, and I also have a stepbrother who is autistic. My sister is mostly fine, like she's 15. She understands a lot for her age, definitely, but my stepbrother, who is in his 20s, he's 21 now, is mentally about 8 years old. So I understand that aspect of things. So it did kind of like annoy me that he was being treated this way. A couple of other things that did annoy me a little bit was Hannah. Even though I love Hannah, I adore her, she is a great main character. Some of her reasonings behind doing or not doing things was stupid and irritating. Like, she's in her 30s, but her reasonings to me would be something that like a 12-year-old girl would think of. Like, they were just stupid. But anyway, apart from that, I loved it. I definitely recommend the Hannah Swenson series, and the cookies and cakes and all the different things that she bakes in her cookie store, because she also has a cafe attached to her cookie store. She actually gives the recipes for in each one of her books. So there's several recipes in each one of her books, which is fantastic. The last book that I read for March was Gorky Park by Martin Cruz Smith. It is the first book in a series, the Arkady Renko series. It is a Russian series. The author is not Russian, I believe he's American. This book was 559 pages. It did take me the entire month to read the book, not because I disliked it, but just because I had so much going on and I wasn't in the mindset to be reading all the time, so it took me a bit to read it, but I really enjoyed this book. As I've said before, I really love reading Russian themed books. I love Russian culture, the history, the folklore. Like, I love it. I think it's so interesting. Gorky Park was actually written in 1981, so quite a long time ago. And it doesn't exactly say when it was set, but because it was written in 81, I assume it was set in the late 70s to the early 80s. You can definitely tell that in the book when you're reading it based on what's going on in the book, like in the country, their lifestyles, that type of thing. You can tell it's definitely set either in the late 70s or early 80s. Um, but it doesn't actually say it's set then. You just can tell. It definitely has a Russian feel to it because the main character, Arkady Renko, he is the investigative police officer. And it was like, I'll be honest, there was definitely a word that I didn't know how to pronounce because it's not a word I really use. And it was like, I said I wasn't sure. Is it military, like militia? I didn't know. It's because we don't use that here. It's militia. And of course I know what the word militia is, but I've just never seen it spelled before. So a friend of mine pointed out that to me last night, so thank you for that, because I wouldn't have known otherwise. So basically he works for the militia, which is like your normal police department in Russia, and he is the chief investigator, and basically 3 murders happen where, and I'm not giving away any details, this is literally on the back cover, where 3 people are murdered. There's 2 males and a female. They have been shot in the chest, which has killed them, and then 2 of the males were shot in the face to destroy dental records, and then they have their fingers cut off so that they can't be identified by fingerprints, and the person who killed them also cut off their faces so that he skinned their faces. It's a little bit gruesome. So that they can't be identified either. And basically, in the very first few pages, you've got Arkady from the militia, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Chief Prabluda. I could be pronouncing that wrong. I don't know. The names are Russian, so I don't know how to speak Russian. And he is I guess, the chief of that section of the KGB. Turn up to the crime scene. The KGB, like, not our problem. It's not a case of national security, so you deal with it. It actually is a case of national security. You can immediately tell that. But basically, these murders involve the KGB, the militia, the FBI, the New York police, and basically an American who has been kind of like playing America and Russia off against each other. He is an American citizen, but he has, I guess, fought in the war with Russia, and he killed 3 Germans, which then made Russians treat him with more respect and give him basically whatever he wanted. Now, I don't want to go too far into this because if I do, like, I'll give so much away, and I don't want to, because this book is definitely worth the read. It kept me definitely entertained when I was reading it. I didn't know who the murderer was for most of the book, but you definitely have like a really good feel because there is a lot of detective work that goes on in this. More murders also happen in this book. It also goes cross country between Russia and New York City. I mean, cross country, cross like world type of thing. You know what I mean. And like there were a couple of little things that didn't annoy me. It wasn't annoying. It was just I guess when the author wrote it, because he was writing, it's based in Russia and the main character is Russian, he was trying to write it so it sounded Russian, which it definitely does. And because I don't understand um, the Russian language or some of their phrases, sometimes I did have to reread a couple of passages to understand exactly what was happening in that situation. So keep that in mind. It is such a good book, though. It really is. It kept me on the edge of my seat for reading this book. I really, really enjoyed it. And I definitely cannot wait to read the second book. I believe the second book is called Polar Star. And I'm pretty sure the second book wasn't published until something like 10 or more years after the first book. The second book, though, for me doesn't seem that easy to get my hands on because it was published like a while ago. So I'm gonna have to try and hunt that one down for a decent price because I saw it on Booktopia or somewhere like that for like nearly $50, and I am not paying that much for a book. No, thank you. But that's basically it, guys. That is all of my reading for March. I ended up only reading 924 pages. I read 2 cozy mysteries, 1 thriller, 1 5-star read, 2 4 stars. Oh, and I did DNF a book, which was King Size. I started King Size in February and I DNF'd it. Not because I disliked it, but purely because when I was thinking of reading books, I just never gravitated towards that one. Because I just don't know. I don't think I was really in the mood to be picking up that book right now. So I just DNF'd it on the first day of March. So yeah. So anyway, guys, that is everything. That's all I read for March. It wasn't much, but it is what it is. We all know how crazy the world is at the moment. And yes. So anyway, guys, that's everything. I am going to do another video straight after this one with my April reading because I do want to continue on with that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.